like a Gold Fury would or a Pyromancer would, anything like that. So I think that in that way, you know, just finding new ways to expand upon that is very exciting. As we are in game, Lermy driving us around to the new castle over here in the duo lane, Duo Kingdom.
Duo Kingdom
is what it's going to be happening.
That jungle camp out there, the castle camp.
The castle camp.
Yeah,
I like that.
You got to go for castle camp.
Yep.
So, yeah, there is so many changes to this Conquest map. You're going to want to check the patch notes for all of them. There's a lot of very specific changes to jungle camps and their values and their tankiness, their health, and their XP and gold. If you find that a little bit difficult to read, just check the dev notes for the main summaries. You know, and of course here today we're going to try to give you the main summaries. So first off, this beautiful new castle. Shout out to the environment team for doing a great job here. We wanted just a very new focal point to this lane to give it a new and unique look. So you can see that here. It's gorgeous. The next thing I want to talk about is the Obelisk. So we do have a completely new system for how you're going to unlock and collect those offerings.
And the Obelisk itself is themed now. It's going to be different.
Oh,
it's
so
also
it
an
is.
Arthurian obelisk, right?
Yeah,
so
it has
the
to be.
Hindu obelisks have been replaced with the Arthurian obelisk. When the obelisk activates, which is now going to activate later at 6 minutes instead of 4, again to kind of prevent some snowball, it's not going to mark jungle camps anymore. Instead, it's going to spawn mist camps.
Oh,
so you can use these to stealth yourself like you could in the Winter Conquest.
Very nice.
And within the mist camps are going to be these lost knights, these ghost knights. You can destroy these to get your offerings. This is the only source of offerings outside of stealing from your opponents. So when all the mist camps spawn, you can see they're marked by the little chalice icon on the mini-map. You can pick these up to fill up your obelisk, or you can lurk and hide and wait in there and see if someone else will come to try to steal them and you can ambush them from the stealth.
I've been hiding in the mist and playtests.
Yeah,
man. I love it.
We can see some safe ones. We can see some contestable ones, right by the castle camp. I think we saw a mist camp over there.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, clarity and simplicity. We're keeping the loop similar, but making it a little more focused. So only offerings will drop from mist camps. All of the mist camps will spawn in the same place at the same time every time the obelisks activate. They will have their own unique respawn timers, which I believe is 60 seconds, but correct me if I'm wrong. There's too many numbers for me to remember all of them. I'm even cheating with my phone here, trying to make sure I have most of them correct. But you'll collect the offerings from there. When you fill up your obelisk, you're going to get a completely new reward as well. We found the scepter was pretty interesting, but it was difficult to apply. It had a lot of complicated follow-up actions that required. Now, when you complete your obelisk, you're going to get a trebuchet siege engine that will spawn on your side of the battleground.
Very cool.
It's going to stay in your Phoenix until someone on your team walks up to it to activate it, and then it's going to push the lane that it's in. It's going to also spawn in the lane that has the most healthy towers in it.
Yeah, I think that knowing exactly where, it's very easy and very clear to see which lane it's going to go to. It's just, we got it, what enemy tower is the which lane has the healthiest tower.
There you go, right there. We can see that the obelisk filled up, and a new mini-map icon shows up on the dual side Phoenix here.
Yep, so Lermy goes back to base. It won't start until you give it a little shove, but you don't, as we all know, these escort quests in games are the worst when you have to stand next to it forever, when they're so slow. So all you've got to do is tap a toe inside of it.
It's got some little guard minions with it too.
They can do the escorting, you know? So I'm a god. I've got stuff to go and do.
Joust medieval minions.
Yep.
Coming back. So this trebuchet also has a very unique type of combat that we don't usually see in our Siege Juggernauts. So this trebuchet has very specifically only a long-range attack. It cannot defend itself at short range. It won't hit things too close to it, but it will be able to lob fireballs and hit enemy structures and minions. And it can hit enemy structures from outside of the tower radius.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is a particularly powerful push tool. It starts a little weak in the early game with a little bit of a low HP pool, but that HP pool will scale up into the late game, and it makes for a very powerful way, a completely new way to siege the towers, where you kind of create this front line of gods that can stand outside the enemy tower range, but between the trebuchet here, like in that narrow space,
right now. Wow.
and they can defend the trebuchet without actually setting foot in tower range. And you can see it did a pretty nice chunk of damage to that tower.
Yeah,
just keep going.
I mean, yeah, when it just keeps going, it does take a little bit of damage each time it fires, so that it can't just push
Yeah, very
forever.
good to bring that up.
But I think that the big thing that there is a little bit of a learning curve around this objective, but in a very fun way. Like if your team doesn't want to group up and push with it, fine. You can just push it along and it'll do its thing and it can get a couple tower shots in and everyone's happy. But when you're playing as a coordinated group, you're playing with your friends. Hey guys, we've got the trebuchet, let's come take this tower. It has felt very, very impactful in those moments when 4 people show up in my solo lane with a trebuchet and I'm like, hello, I'm going to lose my tower.
It's an objective just like anything else in Smite, so
Yep.
you have so many different ways to play it, right? You can have one person defend it, but then if you get out-rotated on, it encourages a lot of interesting early game rotations you might not see, like 4 people showing up in the solo lane unexpectedly, which is exciting.
Lure me.
If you completely leave it alone, though, it can be pretty easy to just go counter kill. Jungler can swing by and just shred this thing up in a minute, right?
Yep.
Or a second.
Few
not
seconds,
even,
yeah.
A few seconds. So it is something like that you have to play to, or you can ignore it. It is really up to you how you want to fight and play into it.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of different applications that players are going to have to learn how to use, but that's exciting. That's what you play MOBAs for, is to try and
What
learn.
we like about this with the Obelisk is offerings much more clear, always from the same sources, always in the same locations, and reward much more clear. It's a big objective on the map that's doing a thing, as opposed to a more high skill oriented individual player buff.
And worth noting that these trebuchets, like we said, don't start until you touch it. And they will stay at your Phoenix line as long as you'd like.
Right.
So if you want to stack up some trebuchets in multiple lanes or in the same lane,
Use them as a defensive tool.
you can use them as a defensive tool. You can use them to the mid game. We want to go to Fire Giant. Let's shove 2 trebuchets at the same time, and then it becomes very difficult to defend against. So it's really cool. Definitely a new dynamic to the Conquest map, but one that I'm excited to see players get their hands on.
Now, before we go into just the large amount of balance across this whole map, have to mention that we obviously had to take the time to kill adjustments into factor with a lot of our changes on the map.
Yep.
So in order to do that, we really have 2 big passes across the map. One is we're doing a lot of changes to the XP and gold sources. The things we're doing in that way, first of all, is we're fine-tuning a lot of them. So we're making more individual harpies. So here you can see the green buff has been changed to green harpy trio camp. We're going to be adjusting individually the camps across the map. So jungle camps, red to purple to green to blue to speed, do not have to share the same total XP or gold values anymore. Also, we made more different types of harpy and more different colors of harpy, so we can be more fine-tuned with how much experience is in different places. You can see that mid here now has 3 blue harpies on each side.
Yep.
So there's just a lot of shifting going on here. I don't want to say that this means that this camp is like directly worth more or less than it did before, because it's a little complicated. But what I will say is that generally, a lot of these camps are worth a little bit more, but the contestable ones are respawning less often. That's another thing to focus fights towards more specific times and to prevent snowball. And then everything in the jungle has generally gotten tankier, so it's a little bit slower to clear. That's another key goal for the Conquest, just bring the pacing down a little bit, but not too much. And everything in the jungle hits really hard back.
Very hard.
Because everyone's getting so tanky, and we wanted jungle camps to be a little bit more scary, we had to really buff this hard.
Yep.
So jungle camps hit hard. Jungle bosses also hit hard.
Yes. Yeah, jungle bosses
There's
especially.
so many specifics in here to go through. I don't even know how we're going to rattle them all off.
Yeah, I think that for the most part, that's kind of the thing you just need to know is that mages beware of red. Whoever's playing mid, beware of red.
Beware of taking Gold Fury. We also did a few things where now Gold Fury, Fire Giant, and Pyromancer, their offhand abilities will deal magic damage, while their basics still deal physical. So you'll need to
change
tank
your
up
itemization
in both ways against those. Also, potentially one of the most important changes on the map. Minions are now going to be tankier as well. So you're going to be spending more time in lane. It's going to take a little longer to clear those minions. That could potentially have really big effects on which gods become viable,